So I've been waiting for this for quite a while. Now, if you remember a while back, I did a rolling road day because I wanted to get a base figure before I had the full exhaust fitted. The actual rolling road showed 144 horsepower and I think it was something like 180 something newton meters of torque. So all the car had at that point was its regular servicing and a cone filter. That's all it had in regards to, you know, the state of the engine and its well-being. Any performance mods, there wasn't really any. There was just the cone filter. The car was a 2006 and it had about, I think it's 65,000 miles on it. So it's not done a lot of miles, and that reading was really good. But basically the guy was saying how you could probably add about 5 horsepower onto that figure just because of the slip with the tyres on the rolling road, which other people, my subscribers, have confirmed that. So the guy wasn't just talking, you know, like rubbish to make me like think I've got more horsepower. No. So the car basically is running sort of stock horsepower, you know, anywhere between sort of 148 to 150. So since that video, the car's had a full exhaust fitted. You might be able to hear it subtly in the background there, but it's had a full Milltek exhaust fitted. So it's got the Evo 2 manifold, the sports cat, the non-res centre section, and the catback. So anyway, yeah, there's not really much else to say. I suppose we'll speak after I've been there and I've got the results. So I'll just cut to the car doing its first few runs. Right, so we're back home now, and before I do get on to the results, which some of you actually know probably because you sort of asked me on Instagram and I sort of gave you an idea really of what happened, and from posts you've probably seen, you probably get a gist of what happened. But what I did want to do is just thank a lot of people who did reply back to my question on Instagram. I put it out there saying, you know, what do you reckon the car will do after it's had a full exhaust? So I'll pop them on screen now and just go through a few. You know, we had, let's have a look. Someone put 186.7. No. You know what? I don't even think I'll end up getting the car to that sort of horsepower with doing other mods. We also had another one at 192. Crazy. Have to have been joking. But then we did have some realistic and sensible answers, albeit the lowest being 64. Not sure if you meant 164, but no. But we had some in the kind of low 150s range into the 150s. We had like 152, we had 158, 156, 155, 150, and ones like 160 and a few 160 odds. So what I can say is you were all wrong. No one got it on the dot. Pretty much anyway. There was one or two that were close. Basically, I'll actually show up on screen the actual figures, but after taking into consideration the decrease that you get with the tyres on the rollers, the car is probably about 151 to 152. It only gained 2 horsepower. It gained 2 horsepower on the day. So what I wanted to do is just go over my first one first. So on this one, this was back in January, the car produced 145 horsepower and 184 newton meters of torque, which was pretty good. And as per the guy who did the testing and what people have said to me, like with comments, that you do lose probably 4 to 5 horsepower. So putting in consideration, the car was in like the high 140s. Sort of where the car should have been as standard 148. Now I'll pop up on screen the new graph. So you can see it's gone to 140, basically 147. So it was 145 near enough. So basically 2 horsepower. But the weird thing is, and the only slightly disappointing thing is, the torque. Now, I said in my first video back in January when I got the car tested, I wasn't massively bothered about figures, but what I did want is more torque with the car. Now the thing is, so fair enough, the horsepower on the day only went up 2 horsepower, and I'm going to go in a little bit more in depth with that as well, because I did talk to a few people and Milltek themselves. But it was the torque. I was actually expecting the torque to have gone up a bit, at least more than it losing torque, because if you look here, before it had, I think it was 184 newton meters. It's now gone to just under 182. How has it lost a couple of newton meters? That I don't really get, because one of the things that even Milltek state, and a lot of owners out there all say, that after fitting even just the manifold on this car, they feel like it's more grunty, low down, got more torque. Well, the proof in the pudding of my test gone to the same place is that I've lost torque. So that is unusual. Even if it hadn't done too much and the like conditions on the day weren't the best, it still I still thought that I would have seen a bit more torque. So what I will also be able to do is, they've done me a graph showing the before run and the after run, which I'll pop on screen now while I'm talking, and the power 1, torque 1, so that was the one done back at the beginning of the year, and power 2 and torque 2 is the new one after having the exhaust fitted. If you look, the horsepower is only at the very top of the rev range, so when it hits about 5,800 revs, realistically, all the way up to nearly 7,000, that's the only bit that is actually increased by 2 horsepower. Looking at it, it's nearly going over the existing one. So it's like it's lost a couple of horsepower through that rev range. So that is really weird. And again, you can see the torque overall has gone a little bit lower, but slightly better again where the horsepower kicks in. Sort of, you know, quite high up the rev range, like, you know, getting only 1,000 revs from the red line, that it's showing that it's gained a tiny bit of torque and a little bit of horsepower. So unfortunately, going off that, the car hasn't done well. But it obviously does bother me a little bit because I'm talking about it. Like I said, it wasn't the horsepower that bothered me. Do you know what? That could have stayed like where it was. I just wanted to see more torque. So that was a shame. Now, one thing that this isn't just the actual place that did the test on the rolling road. This isn't just a couple of people who I've spoke to, but it's also Milltek themselves. It's all a conclusion that I can come to the reason why, you know, the figures weren't a positive from the day after having a full exhaust fitted. A couple of the main reasons they say is the factors that can be involved is actually quite a lot, especially Milltek was saying that, you know, there's a lot of sort of factors and things that can happen on the day that, you know, can result in different readings. You could go back the next day and I could have had, you know, a big increase, or it could have been even worse. So one of the biggest things is humidity, the heat of the day. Now, when I did my first run, it was great, ideal conditions. It was cold, it was in the heart of winter in January, so temperatures were lower, you know, overall around the car, in the engine bay and all that kind of stuff, so the car is going to do better. When I went the other day, it was really hot. Even the place said, like, you know, it feels really hot today. And that probably had a bit of a hindrance on the power. So on a cooler winter day, the car probably would have actually, you know, he said you probably got about 5 more horsepower, not just 2. So that probably would have been a bit more of a realistic figure. So in a weird way, if I don't have anything else done on the car, it would be cool to go back in January or around that time and see what the figure actually is. There can be loads of other things like the fuel on the day, you know, whether or not it was more fresh than the previous one. Did I put in Shell V-Power or did I put in Tesco? I can't actually remember. So things like that can also affect it. And another thing could also be stuff like servicing. The car is actually pretty much as of now due to have a service. So, you know, again, that could actually help a little bit. So there's a few things there, so I don't feel too bad about it, because the way I look at it is, in a weird way, it was a hot day, you know, I haven't had a full tank of V-Power in the car, it could have done with a service. If I did those things, then I reckon it would have been a different outcome. So I do think that's probably the reason why. Also, the car probably would benefit from a remap. But when I've posted up on some Facebook groups and talking to some people privately, it's pretty clear that obviously everyone always says there's no point in remapping with just a full exhaust on. But then you have got a few people who, for example, they went to Jam Sport recently, their car ran 153 horsepower with a full exhaust, no mapping, which actually, you know, I'm looking at this figure, so it's saying 147 horsepower. If you add 4 to 5 onto that, you are around the 151, 152 horses, so that is very similar to what this guy had on Facebook. And Jam Sport remapped just the setup, same as what I've got, and they got it to, I think it was 171 horsepower. So they nearly gained 20 horsepower there. I'm not too sure what the gain on the torque was, but the guy said he, you know, at that point he could feel the car felt better and had a little bit more grunt. So there's a bit of to and fro, I think, for getting a remap. I have considered it, and I may consider it if I can't afford to do the further mods that I needed on this car to get a little bit more power out of it and to get the torque that I want with things like the Fusion Fabrications inlet, and it looks like I'd have to get cams and then get it remapped. Then obviously the car would be, you know, pretty punchy and it should have good torque. But if I'm not going to do that for, say, at least 1 to 2 years or so, because that will be expensive, then is it worth sort of spending, say, 300 quid on getting it remapped? I don't know. I don't think you will really feel the difference. But the thing is, it's not even just a matter of feeling the difference, because like I said, the car to me actually felt like it had more power. Obviously, even though it doesn't really, it's negligible. But I think it's because of the noise. Now, the noise, you know, what you've purchased, it's a big expense, having a full exhaust. But the noise alone is probably 75% of the reason why I bought a full Milltek. Not just to have a bit more power, but that noise is just iconically awesome. I love it. But I would possibly consider remaps, so I really want you to comment below, because I think it'd be important to see what everyone does think in regards to, you know, if I'm not going to do, say, the inlet and the cams for at least another year, let's say, is it worth me spending 300 quid and getting it remapped just so I know it's making the best use of having the air filter and full exhaust on the car? Yes, you might notice a little bit more of a feel in the car. You know, maybe it'll even be a bit smoother. It might be better torque. The fuel economy might be, you know, different as well, like, you know, better on longer runs, but also more performance. So yeah, I'm a little bit stuck, like, you know, I'm not going to look at doing a remap anytime right now anyway, because my money is going to be tied up in other things. But I did think to myself that maybe in a few months or later in the year, you know, maybe I should get a remap, because it might make best use, you know, of keeping the car healthy with the current setup. But then it's also a right waste of money if I'm just going to get it remapped, say, 6 to 12 months after then. So then I'm like, well, there's no point in spending 300 quid on a remap when, you know, that'll probably, you know, nearly buy me a set of cams. So there's just no point. But yeah, if you can comment below on your thoughts on that, you know, maybe your own personal experiences on having one of these cars, you know, with my setup, just an air filter and a full exhaust. Did you get it remapped? Like, maybe why? What was the results before and after? Did you feel any difference? All those kind of things. It would be interesting to know your thoughts, definitely. But yeah, just re-looking on the map now, actually the most drastic thing you can see is the AFR, which is the air to fuel ratio. So looking at since the exhaust has been fitted low down, it does look like it's, I don't know if that means it's fueling or is that more air. I'm not actually too sure, the air to fuel, like, does that mean there's more air with the graph going up, or does that mean there's more fuel being pumped in sort of at the lower revs? So if you can let me know as well on that one, actually, because I'm not too sure. I should have asked the exhaust place when I was there, but I forgot. So yeah, to summarise, the car basically can keep those ST150 stickers on the side because it is basically still an ST150. You know, I can't like do anything cheesy like replace them for, say, 160 stickers or anything like that. But I don't want to take this as a negative video in the fact that I've spent all that money and time having a full exhaust, getting it how I want, and then finding out that actually there is no increase really in that. it is really strange that, you know, Milltek and places that sell them like Puma Speed and Roadrunner and all that, you know, they say the same thing where they'll give you, you know, like, say for example, the Flexi Pipe I think is stated as like 5 to 10 horsepower. Well, it's obviously a load of rubbish, because if that just alone gained you that, then a full exhaust, realistically, you know, you probably, as a consumer, you would probably think, yeah, that's going to gain at least, say, 10 horsepower. But it looks like it doesn't. And, you know, I am learning more with this car. A lot of places and people, you know, have sort of made me understand that actually, no, you know, with a normal aspirated car, the exhaust doesn't do that much. One of the biggest things is cams. But I also do want to do the inlet, and then it is the remap to make best use of those and to get the best figures you can. If you are looking to, you know, go for that higher number, then obviously getting it properly remapped is the way forward. When I get it remapped, I probably will go to Jam Sport. I've been there before many years ago, and they did a really good job on my old ST. And, you know, I'm hoping that when it does come to having that done, that I would be able to say to them something like, you know, can you actually map it? I don't know. Again, this is thing in the comments. When you go somewhere and they do a custom like remap, can you ask them to tailor it? Because I would love them to, you know, if it was a matter of reducing the horsepower that the car produces, but by increasing a little bit more torque through the rev range, then, you know, that's what I would want personally. You know, if they said to me, well, we can map it, yeah, once it's had the inlet, the cam's done, and a custom remap, they might be like, you know, we can get this to, or we could get it to 190. I'm not bothered. I'm not bothered if it was high 170s, let's say, but I would prefer to have more torque. If they were able to open up more torque, then yeah. Anyway, I feel like I've talked way too long. Apologies, the video is probably too long of me just blabbing on. But, you know, I'm just getting everything out that was in my head and what's been said and I've read, etc. in the video. But yeah, really appreciate any comments, you know, any feedback, any of your own personal knowledge as well. Please comment below, would really appreciate it. Right, I better leave the video there. I've talked too much. Thanks all for watching and sticking with me if you have watched and listened to the end. I really do appreciate it. See you all again soon. Bye.